Hey everybody, it's Barbara, and today we're going to be making a delicious medicinal mushroom soup. I actually got this recipe from a client of mine who I absolutely adore, and she makes this recipe with the traditional cremini mushrooms. So I decided to take this recipe and revamp it a little bit so that we can boost the nutritional value of this dish to help fight cancer or help patients that are struggling through cancer and chemotherapy to have a nutritious way to keep their immune system in check and optimize their potential for healing. So we're going to use a variety of mushrooms, and here I have an assortment of mushrooms, all different kinds, but there are two mushrooms that I want to draw your attention to because they in particular have been shown to have cancer fighting properties. The first mushroom is called Maitake mushroom, and Maitake mushrooms are not that readily available in a regular supermarket, so you may have to go to a farmer's market or Whole Foods to get them. You might be able to order them online as well. But Maitake mushrooms have been shown to have incredible cancer fighting properties. They contain something called griffolan. Griffolan is a beta-glucan polysaccharide, so essentially a phytonutrient that activates a cell in your body called macrophages. And macrophages go around your body and scavenge for different kinds of pathogens. So they grab hold of bacteria and viruses and cancer cells, and they engulf them and then they destroy them. So the more macrophages you have in your system, the more likely you are to be able to fight off cancer and the cancer cells that might be developing throughout your system. They also contain something called diffraction, and diffraction energizes cellular immune function. So it actually activates the immunity of every cell in your body. In this way, Maitake mushrooms have been shown to block tumor growth, and that's phenomenal for anybody that is dealing with cancer. The second mushroom I want to draw your attention to is the shiitake mushroom. And shiitake mushrooms are much more readily available in supermarkets than the Maitake mushroom, so you won't have to go too far to find it. You might be able to find it at any supermarket. So shiitake mushrooms contain proteins called interferons, and interferons block the replication of pathogens like bacteria and viruses and cancer cells. So once you have these things in your body, you don't want them to create more of themselves. The protein, this interferon protein in shiitake mushrooms, block them from making more of themselves, and that's great. Shiitake mushrooms also have something called lentinin, and lentinin blocks against chromosomal damage that can occur when somebody's going through chemotherapy. So if anybody's been through chemo, or you know somebody that's had cancer and has gone through chemo, you know that it's quite toxic to the system and it destroys a lot of healthy cells as well as the cancer cell. The shiitake mushroom has been shown to protect some of those cells from that damage. Additionally, this lentinin in shiitake mushrooms has been shown to help protect your white blood cell count. So once somebody's going through chemo, it tends to destroy your white blood cells, and your white blood cells are necessary for proper immune function. If you can keep your white blood cells up, you're less prone to secondary infections, which is quite common in somebody going through chemotherapy. So the more you can protect your white blood cells, the less likely you are to develop secondary infection, and that's super important. So these two mushrooms are incredibly useful for somebody that's either looking to prevent cancer or struggling to fight cancer. If you have cancer, you want to make this recipe with these two mushrooms, and that's it, because you want to get as much of this as you possibly can. If you're just looking to find ways to increase your the nutritional value of your meals to help you fight cancer, then what you might want to do is do a variety of mushrooms and then maybe use half of the amount of Maitake and Shitake just to save on cost, because they are more expensive than just regular mushrooms. But if you have cancer, you're absolutely worth the investment on buying these two things, these two particular mushrooms, because you'll benefit much more from making it from just these two. So we're making a soup, like I said, and in a big pot we're going to saute in some olive oil, a cup of carrots, a cup of leeks, sliced leeks, a cup of sliced onions, half a cup of celery, all the mushrooms, a little bit of salt, a little bit of black pepper, and a little bit of thyme. I have dried thyme, but you could use fresh thyme as well if you'd like. We'll be sauteing that with a little bit of chicken broth. If you prefer to use a vegetarian broth, that's totally fine, and if you have cancer, a vegetarian broth would be preferable. If you're going to be making it with chicken broth, then absolutely make it organic, just to get rid of any antibiotics or hormones that might be in chicken broth that's not organic. So we'll be sauteing all this up, adding our chicken broth, bringing it to a simmer, and when that all cools down, we'll be pureeing it. So now we're going to assemble our soup. So I have some olive oil in this pot rather, and we're going to add our carrots, sliced onions. And you don't have to worry about chopping everything finely because we're going to be pureeing it at the end anyway. We're going to add our leeks, celery. Let that saute for a minute. So I've been stirring these a little bit until they soften, and now I'm ready to add my mushrooms. So I'm going to take this and carefully put these mushrooms in the pot. And again, you don't have to worry about how well you cut them because we're going to be pureeing this all at the end. So just coarsely chop it, make it easy on yourself. Give that a quick stir. And then we're going to add our chicken broth. And now we're going to let this simmer for about 30 minutes. Let me just add a little bit of salt. Again, we use sea salt. And a little bit of black pepper. And then some thyme. Okay. And we can adjust the flavors later. So now we'll just let this be. We'll bring it to a simmer and let it simmer for 30 minutes. Then we'll let it cool down and then we'll be back to puree the whole thing and put the finishing touches on our dish. So now we've let the soup simmer for 30 minutes and let it cool down just a bit. And what I've done is I've removed the solids of the soup. So I've taken out the mushrooms and the carrots, etc. with a slotted spoon, put it in the blender with a little bit of the broth. And this way it's just a little bit easier than to puree in batches that includes tons of liquid. So now I'm going to puree this. Alright, so now you see it's like a very creamy quality to it. So it's like almost like a bisque, a mushroom bisque without the dairy, which is great. We're going to pour this back in the pot, mix it up because the broth is still warm, and then we'll serve it. So there you have it, a delicious medicinal mushroom soup. If you're interested in boosting immune function and helping yourself fight cancer, or if you're struggling with cancer right now or know somebody that is, this is the recipe you'd want in your repertoire. It's loaded in nutrition to help you fight that disease. If you'd like to know the effects of food on your health and your well-being, definitely check out my blog at rootsandseeds.com. I have loads of cooking videos on there that you can check out and enjoy to help you incorporate some healthy food in a delicious way into your life. If you'd like to know more about me or my practice, then check out my website at barbaramendeznutrition.com. Thanks so much for tuning in, and leave your comments below. I'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks so much and have a great day.